Good morning, all. Hope I'm audible. And
Yes,
yeah, and the screen is visible. That whiteboard.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Till now, what we have seen, we have discussed what is packaging. One second, just put on the recording. Yeah, we have seen what is packaging, and I also given you the aspects of packaging in the group. Hope you have got it.
yes, sir.
Okay. So where we have seen the major aspects of packaging are protection, and we had different kind of it. We had some mechanical influences, we had some chemical influences, we can have some environmental influences like that, and some more maybe. Okay, then we had convenience. We also had containment, and we had something like information slash advertising. So these were the major, aspects of packaging. Before we go further, we today we will start with a topic that is called levels of packaging. Levels of packaging means in many of the cases you will see that a package product is having different levels of packaging. Okay, so say for example, if you buy a one sec just okay, in many of the cases you will see, for example, if you buy syrup, a cup syrup kind of thing, what you see in that case, if you buy a cup syrup, can you just tell me what you see in terms of packaging of that?
Sir, first there is a box, and then inside there is a bottle which is tightly sealed, and the box contains the name and the date and all the expiry dates and all our pricings and the
Yeah,
contents.
correct. Rahul, you want to tell anything? Rahul, you want to tell anything? You have raised hand since. Okay. Yeah. So if we just consider that kind of thing, in a very brief way, we can show suppose you have a box, and inside the box you have the syrup bottle. Okay. So this is the means here you can see there are two levels of packaging. Okay. So this is the packaging which is actually containing the product. Okay, and this one is again a second layer of packaging which is not directly interacting with the product, but it is giving a second level of protection as well as convenience and information. Okay, so basically there are two levels of packaging over here. This packaging, which directly interacts with the product, with the product, this is called primary packaging. And obviously, this one, which do not interact directly with the product, but it gives an additional level of you can say protection, or maybe convenience to some extent, and information. This one is called secondary packaging. And this one again can have another level of packaging. That think of a medicine shop. When this product is coming to that shop, how it comes within a carton, maybe within a carton, and in this particular carton you can have number of such boxes. Okay, so this gives another degree of protection as well as containment. It is more about a containment, and you can say that it is giving a major ease in terms of transportation. When you are transporting, say in a medicine shop, you want to deliver 15 such tonic bottles. So what we normally do, we put those 15 or 16 bottles in another packaging, and then we deliver it. Okay. So this level is generally called tertiary packaging. Okay. So there are three packaging levels that are normally practiced. One is called primary packaging, one is called secondary packaging, and another one is called tertiary packaging. Say for example, a good example that you can relate very easily, I hope. Say for example, this Cadbury Celebration pack. You will see there that there are different type of products which has been put in a single box. So the box at the outer side where it is written Cadbury Celebration and which all products are actually inside the box, that is which level of packaging?
Secondary packaging.
No. Why why have you told that is secondary packaging?
স্যার ক্যাডবেরি গুলো প্রোডাক্ট ছিল, তা ক্যাডবেরি গুলো তো একটা আলাদা বিভিন্ন প্যাকেজে থাকবে, সেটা হচ্ছে প্রাইমারি প্যাকেজিং। আর সব কটা ক্যাডবেরি মিলে একটা প্যাকেটের মধ্যে থাকলো, তাহলে সেই বাক্সটা যেটা পাচ্ছি এটা তাহলে সেকেন্ডারি প্যাকেজিং।
Correct, correct, correct. Right. Anything else? Can we call it tertiary packaging?
নো স্যার।
Okay. And many of the times you will see that there is a tray inside. দেখবেন নর্মালি একটা ট্রে টাইপের একটা প্লাস্টিকের থাকে, তার মধ্যে ওই প্রোডাক্টগুলোকে রাখা থাকে, তাই তো? সো হোয়াট ইজ দ্যাট ট্রে? ইজ ইট প্রাইমারি আর সেকেন্ডারি? হ্যালো, হ্যালো,
Yes, sir.
yeah. What I'm asking, in the case of Cadbury Celebration, you will see there is a plastic tray also. right? In that you will see the different products is been put together. So that tray comes under which? That is a primary packaging or a secondary packaging?
Secondary.
Secondary packaging. Okay. Yeah. So that is what I wanted to say, that there are three levels of packaging. And again, suppose you want to buy, say, 50 such Cadbury celebration and you want to take it to another place. So what you are going to do, mostly what we do, we put those 50 packets in another carton and then we send it, or we may transfer it to another place. So basically that tertiary packaging is for means to give an extra quotient of ease in terms of transportation. Okay, tertiary packaging is majorly for transportation need, but primary and secondary are very commonly seen in most of the cases. Okay, so after these levels of packaging, we are now going to start the different packaging materials. So can you briefly tell me that what all are the different packaging materials before we go into detail about each packaging materials? Yeah. What are the majorly used packaging material?
Sir, plastic, cardboard,
Plastic, then
paper board,
paper and paper boards. Okay, there are these two are different thing, because in general we may not differentiate them, but technically we there is a big difference between papers and paper boards, and we will know that. Anything else? Plastic,
glass,
papers and
glass,
glass. Yeah,
wood,
yeah. Glass, wood.
sir, aluminum,
Yeah, we can have different metals, not only aluminum, we can have others also. Metals. Anything else? Okay. We can have textiles also. Okay, there are different textiles that are commonly used in packaging. Ancillary materials also. Say for example, we may need glue. Okay, we may need some kind of lacquer. Okay, we may need some nails, some uh, tapes kind of thing. We may need some kind of metal strips. Okay, which are basically used to form the package, but they are not the primary packaging material by which you can pack a product. So these are the fundamental packaging materials, and each of them we are going to study in a bit detailed way. We will start with the papers and paper boards. Okay. Now, as I already told, that paper and paper boards in general, when in the common cases when we speak, we generally don't differentiate between paper and paper boards. Okay, but Anyway, they are different and they are differentiated in terms of their GSM. You know what is GSM?
So it is like the thickness of the paper.
Yeah, it is to some extent related to the thickness of the paper, but not necessarily, a very thick paper also will have always the high GSM. Okay, it is, you can say this basically tells that what is the kind of density of a paper, that what is the weight of the paper. You can normally it is you know conveyed in terms of the GSM. What is the full form of GSM?
Gram per square meter.
Yeah, gram per square meter. So this is also called the grammage also because it is gram per square meter. Normally anything above 180 or 200 GSM we call them paper board. We don't call them paper anymore. Okay, but below this range we normally call them paper. Okay, mostly in packaging we use the paper boards, but there are applications of papers also. So before we go further, let us quickly discuss that what are the advantages of disadvantages of paper or paper board as packaging materials. So we will have some advantages and we will have some disadvantages. So what are the advantages of paper as packaging material?
ইকো ফ্রেন্ডলি
Cheap.
হবে।
Yeah, it is, you can say it is eco-friendly. And how it helps, this eco-friendliness, how it helps in packaging?
স্যার পলিউশনটা কম হবে যদি এই ধরনের প্যাকেট ইউজ করি। প্যাকেটটা তো আমরা সেই ফেলে দেবো।
Yeah, basically it is easy to dispose. Okay, means once you dispose it after using, then that disposal does not create lot of environmental problems. So that is why it is advantageous. Hmm. What is next?
Cheap.
Yeah, cheap is okay, but it is having a question nowadays because nowadays paper is not, in fact, a very cheap material. Okay, paper price is quite good. So that is why cheap in general, because it is the way we use paper, it looks like very cheap it is, but actually paper and paper boards are not always cheap. Okay, what is the third point?
স্যার কস্ট ফর কাটিং ট্রিজ, আমাদের স্যার পেপার তৈরি করতে গেলে তো গাছ কেটে পেপার তৈরি হচ্ছে, তার জন্য তো একটা দিক থেকে হচ্ছে তো।
Obviously that's a disadvantage, that it can cause a kind of environmental issues. Okay, that is obviously not an advantage. So anything in terms of advantage?
Sir, easy to transport.
Easy to transport means, actually speaking, paper does not have a very good mechanical strength. So any package which is meant to transportation, we generally don't use paper or paper boards over there. Okay, you can say that okay, in case of cartons and all these things we use, but that is actually if you have a very heavy product or industrial product, normally it is not used in that uh, carton thing. And you will see, like if it is in a carton also, normally you will see that it is a covered van kind of arrangement by which the transportation is made, because paper is having low mechanical strength. Low mechanical strength means it does not have high resistance, high resistance to all those mechanical influences, stress, impact, abrasion. This kind of mechanical influences can cause harm or can cause problem to paper packed product. So that is one of the disadvantages, that paper is having a very low mechanical strength compared to other packaging materials. Now, anything in terms of advantage or disadvantages?
Lightweight.
Lightweight. Yeah, lightweight is obviously a advantage. It is obviously an advantage. And how it helps? How the lightweight parameter helps in packaging?
স্যার লাইট ওয়েট হলে তো নিয়ে যেতে কোথাও সুবিধা হবে। জিনিসটা যত হেভি হবে তত তো আমাদের নিয়ে যেতে অসুবিধা হবে।
হ্যাঁ, সেটা তো একটা অবশ্যই খুব সুবিধা। It does not increase the cost of transportation, but as I already told, say for example, there may be cases where you cannot use a paper packaging because the product itself is so heavy that paper cannot carry it. ফলে সেই ক্ষেত্রে তুমি ইউজ করতে পারবে না, বাট এনিওয়ে লাইট ওয়েট is an advantage. Anything else in terms of advantage or disadvantage?
Not waterproof.
Yeah, that is one of the major disadvantage of paper, that it is very sensitive to moisture. Okay, now before I go further, let me tell you, in packaging, water and moisture, these two are separate thing. Actually, they are separate thing, but generally we don't differentiate them. But in packaging, please keep in mind that water and moisture, they are taken two different attributes. Okay, moisture is, as you already know, that moisture is the air, the water particles suspended in the uh, air or your environment. But water is something that is, some, it is more important when you are traveling or you are shifting your product by ships and any means path where it can get subjected to a huge amount of water. Or say for example, if it is a rainy time, or if you are transporting in the monsoon time, or you are transporting your product to a place which is very heavily raining, or maybe a very rainy kind of season, means environment is there. So then the case will be water, but moisture is there in every place. It may vary from one place to another place, but it is a general thing which is there, and it is having a seasonal impact also. So there are, say for example, metal. Now metal will also have a problem in terms of water. May not be all the metals, but most of the metal. Okay, if it is not having a steel or a aluminum kind of means composition, if it is made of iron and this thing, then that also is going to get degraded when it comes under water. Say for example, wood will also have the same problem. But for the plastic, now plastic, if it is in the water, then it may have problem, but in moisture it is not going to have much problem, because it may not have any kind of migration for a small amount of moisture in the air. But if you dip it for a very long time in water, you may find there are like traces of migration of water particles from outside to inside of the package. Are you getting my point? Like what I wanted to tell, that what is the difference between water and moisture? Are you getting it, or any problem in understanding? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sensitive to moisture, as you know that paper is very sensitive actually. So anything like if it is a very moist weather, or if it is something like which can generate lot of moisture and all, so in that case paper is generally avoided. Any other disadvantages or advantages? Yeah. Okay, one major advantage is it is having a very high printability. Now, as you know, we told that packaging, one of the aspects of packaging is information and advertising. That means you need to print it. Now, paper is the most printable material among all the packaging materials. Hmm. So that is why if you want to display lot of information and all these things, you will see, even though the product is basically packed in a plastic bottle, but above that there is a paper label. Why is so? Because paper is most convenient material for printing. So that is one of the big advantage of paper, that it is highly printable. Another thing which can be a catch between whether it is an advantage or non-advantage, you can say that porosity. Porosity means that paper is basically a porous material, right? You have small gaps in between. Now, when it is advantageous and when it is disadvantageous, any idea how the porosity of the paper is an advantage in terms of packaging?
সে পোরোসিটির জন্য তো হাওয়া টাওয়া ঢুকতে পারে, ঢুকলে তো জিনিসটা প্রোডাক্টটা নষ্টও হয়ে যেতে পারে।
সেটা তো হতেই পারে, সেই জন্য আমি বললাম যে এটা তুমি ডিসঅ্যাডভান্টেজও বলতে পারো, কিন্তু এটার অ্যাডভান্টেজও আছে। একটা বলতে পারবে কোথায় এটার অ্যাডভান্টেজ আছে, এরকম কোনো অ্যাপ্লিকেশন, প্যাকেজিং অ্যাপ্লিকেশন? ওকে, গোদরেজ এয়ার পকেট, এই জিনিসটা কেউ দেখেছো? বা ওডোনিল, দেখবে সব টয়লেট বা এইসব জায়গাতে কাগজে করে ঝোলানো থাকে, দেখেছো? তাতে একটা গন্ধ বেরোয় ইন জেনারেল। দেখেছো এই
Yes,
জিনিসটা
sir.
কেউ?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
Yes, sir.
আচ্ছা, জুতো বা কোনো দামি ব্যাগ কিনলে দেখবে ভেতরে এরকম ছোট ছোট কাগজ স্যাশে দেওয়া থাকে, ওপরে লেখা থাকে ডেসিক্যান্ট। ঠিক আছে, দেখেছো এই জিনিসগুলো? ছোট ছোট দেখবে
Ah,
কাগজের
sir.
প্যাকেট থাকে।
Ah, sir.
আচ্ছা, টি ব্যাগ, যে টি ব্যাগগুলো গরম জলে ডুবিয়ে চা খায়, তাই তো? So in such cases, this porosity is an advantage, because if it is not porous, this air circulation won't happen, and you won't get this refreshing activity over there. In case of this desiccant also, why these desiccants are used? These desiccants are used to absorb moisture. Okay. বেসিক্যালি এই ভেতরে কি থাকে, এর ভেতরে দেখবে সিলিকা জেল দেওয়া থাকে। ওকে, সিলিকা জেল will absorb the moisture. Say for example, leather shoes or very expensive electronic products. If it comes under moisture, then it may start malfunctioning. Okay, so that is why it is generally packed in a paper bag, and that paper bag or sachet is porous in nature, so that external moisture can get absorbed by the packed desiccants. ঠিক আছে, টিউবের ক্ষেত্রেও if that hot water and the tea leaves do not come into contact, then you cannot get the extract of the leaves. So in those cases, we need this porous nature of the paper. We use that advantages. But as one of you told that this porosity can be a disadvantage also. Suppose you are packing a very sensitive chemical product which is very much prone to oxidization. So in that case, if you pack it in paper, then it may be problematic. Okay, because external oxygen will get inside and it will oxidize the material inside. So in those cases, this porosity will work as a disadvantage. Okay, another important disadvantage is it is inflammable, right? Paper is basically very inflammable, and overall, if paper is having some problem in terms of inventory management. That means or paper packed product for a very long time will need lot of extra treatments because your inventory is having lot of moisture. If it is very prone to get affected by water, if it is very prone to get fire attacks, in all those cases paper inventory is very risky. Okay, so inventory management of paper packaging is a bit tricky thing. It's not that easy like many of the other packaging product. But at the same point of time, paper is having a high degree of versatility. Versatility in the sense that you can create different kind of means shapes, designs, and even wrapping, because paper is flexible thing that uh, you can fold it into different shapes. You can make different kind of arrangements. You can just even wrap with paper. So it is quite versatile in terms of nature. Say for example, metal will have either a can or a box. You cannot have any other kind of shapes. But with paper, you can have something like a box, you can have something like a sack, you can have something like a cone kind of thing. So there are so many shapes that you can attain with paper. Hmm. And paper and paperboard is also important, that this is one of such packaging material which can be a sole packaging material. Sole packaging material means you can do entire packaging using paper. You don't need any other thing. Say for example, if you want to have a plastic bottle, most of the cases you will see that it is a hybrid it is a hybrid packaging. Why I am using this term hybrid? Because a plastic bottle will have plastic body, but it will have a metal cap, right? So this is not plastic may have, if you want to use a rigid packaging, in that case packaging of plastic bottles will need another product for making the closure. So that is why it's a hybrid packaging. But at the same point of time, you can also tell there are many instances of plastic packaging also where it can be sole packaging also. A better example may be glass. Now glass is very rigid. one of the most rigid material, and very means I don't know whether you have seen it or not. You will see most of the cases the glass bottles will have a metal cap or maybe a plastic closures onto it. Glass bottles with glass closure. Have you seen it? Hello, give me one packaging example where we use glass bottles as well as glass closures. Any example? Hello?
স্যার
Hello?
অনেক কেমিক্যালের বোতলে কি কাঁচের ঢাকনার মতো ইউজ করা হয় কি?
Yes, chemical bottles বা তোমরা আতর বা দেখবে এরকম যে দামি যে fragrances গুলো হয় সেইখানে ওটা ইউজ হয়. In some cases, some liquors and all, in that case also it is used. Okay? But mostly you won't see that. Mostly you will see a glass bottle is having a metal cap or maybe a plastic closures. কিন্তু পুরো প্যাকেজিংটাই গ্লাস দিয়ে করা এরকমটা কিন্তু খুব একটা তোমরা দেখবে না। কিন্তু পেপারের ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু সেটা হয়, মানে পেপার ইজ জেনারেলি সোল প্যাকেজিং মেটেরিয়াল। ওকে, so more or less, these are the advantages and disadvantages of paper or paper board. You can keep on adding your points on this. So these are some of the major advantages and disadvantages. The next thing is, what are the types of packaging papers? Now, as you know that papers can be of different types, but we will focus majorly on the papers those are used for packaging. Okay, so what are those? The first one is called uh, wet strength paper. As from the name itself you can understand that wet strength paper is basically a treated paper. Treated paper means that this paper is not in the raw form of the paper itself. It has been treated so that it is having a higher degree of wet strengthness. That means wet strength means it is having a higher degree of moisture resistance. Okay, so to do that, normally it is done that some of the agents like urea formaldehyde and melamine formaldehyde are added, which basically make a cross link and deposit on the surface of the cellulose. As you know, means that paper is basically a fibrous structures like this. Okay, so in wet strength paper, normally we use two agents. One is urea formaldehyde and another one is melamine formaldehyde, which basically cross link and they deposit on this porous cellulose architecture, and this basically creates a wet strengthening in the paper which can be used for packaging. Okay. Now, the next paper which is commonly used is called a micro creping paper. Micro creping paper is basically to introduce some small thread like structures in the paper, and this process is called a Kalpak process. By this Kalpak process, what happens that the paper is made more stretchable. It basically increases the stretching of the paper. For example, have you seen those papers that are used for large envelopes? দেখবে এক রকমের এনভেলপস হয়, তার ভেতরে একটা থ্রেডেড কাইন্ড অফ স্ট্রাকচার থাকে, সুতোর মতো একটা স্ট্রাকচারস থাকে। দেখেছো এই এনভেলপগুলো? একটা থাকে যার বাইরে একদম সুতোর জালি দেওয়া থাকে, আমি ওটার কথা কিন্তু বলছি না। একটা রকমের পেপার হয়, দেখবে ভেতর থেকে, মানে তুমি যদি ছেড়ো পেপারটাকে, দেখবে ভেতর থেকে সুতো সুতো বেরিয়ে আছে। দেখেছো ওই পেপারগুলো?
না স্যার।
দেখনি? কেউই দেখনি না?
স্যার
আচ্ছা, আমি এখন তো মানে দেখানো মুশকিল। যাই হোক, ঠিক আছে, আমি চেষ্টা করব পরের দিন এগুলো একটু কালেক্ট করে রাখার। আমি তোমাদের সবগুলোর এক্সাম্পল দেখাবো। সেখানে তোমরা দেখতে পাবে যে in that kind of paper what happens, okay, another example is, তবে যদি বাড়িতে কোনোদিন বড় এনভেলপ আসে, মানে envelope তোমরা দোকানে গিয়েও দেখতে পারো, there is an envelope which is a bit expensive। ধরো একটা বড় এনভেলপ, মানে A4 সাইজের এনভেলপ, একটু দেখবে গ্রিন, একটু হালকা ব্লু ব্লু টাইপের কালার হয়, ঠিক আছে, ওই এনভেলপ গুলো, এবং ইট ইজ আ বিট কস্টলি, ঠিক আছে। তো সেই টাইপ অফ পেপার ইজ কল্ড দ্য মাইক্রো ক্রেপিং পেপার। এবং এই মাইক্রো ক্রেপিং পেপারের দ্য মেজর অ্যাডভান্টেজ ইজ দে আর মাচ মোর ফ্লেক্সিবল, মানে ওদের স্ট্রেচ করা যায় অনেকটা। এমনিতে পেপার টানলে তো, কিন্তু due to inclusion of this micro creping, the paper will have a higher stretchability, and this stretchability is always advantageous because it gives an additional flexibility. একটা প্রোডাক্ট যত ফ্লেক্সিবল হয় তত কিন্তু তার শক প্রুফনেসটাও বাড়ে। Rigid products, say for example, and a glass bottle is more susceptible to breakage and it is more fragile because it is very rigid. It does not have a flexibility. But plastic bottles, you will see, you can just crash it, or you can just put it to any kind of shapes and all, because it is very flexible. So microcreping also helps to increase the flexibility. The next type of paper is called grease-proof paper. Grease-proof paper, as from the name you can understand that these are having very high level of grease or oil resistance. Okay, and how it is done? Basically, this is very highly beaten uh, paper fibers. In this case, like the paper fibers are highly beaten. তোমরা কি পেপার টেকনোলজি পড়েছো?
একটা ক্লাস হয়েছে বেশ, ইন্ট্রোডাকশন।
আচ্ছা, এরপরে তোমরা পড়বে বিটিং কাকে বলে। বেসিক্যালি this high level of beating, what it happens, now you basically get a জিলাটিন কাইন্ড অফ স্ট্রাকচার অফ দ্য পেপার। আমি একটা জেনারেল অ্যানালজি টানছি, দেখবে পাতা, দেখবে ধরো অনেক রান্নাতে দেখবে পাতা বাটা হয়, ঠিক আছে, বা তুমি যে কোনো একটা যদি গাছের পাতা নাও, সেটাকে যদি তুমি সমানে বাটতে থাকো, বাটতে বাটতে আস্তে আস্তে দেখবে সেটা একটা থকথকে টাইপের একটা জিনিস হয়ে যায়, তাই তো? এটা হয়তো,
Yes, sir.
হ্যালো, তো পেপার মেকিং এও একটা প্রসেস থাকে, বিটিং। তো সেই বিটিং প্রসেসে কি করা হয় না, ফাইবারস অফ দ্য, বিকজ পেপার ইজ বেসিক্যালি মেড ফ্রম উড অর ট্রিজ, রাইট? এবারে সেই উডের মধ্যেও এই যে ফাইবারস গুলো থাকে সেগুলোকে কিন্তু বিটিং করা হয়, এবং বিটিং প্রসেসে কি হয়, এই ফাইবারস গুলো কিন্তু ব্রেক ডাউন করে, ঠিক আছে। এইবারে এই গ্রিস প্রুফ পেপারে কি করা হয়, these are beaten severely. A high degree of beating is performed, and for that reason, they also forms a gelatin kind of, you know, structure, and that basically provides a grease proofingness. মানে গ্রিস প্রুফিং কেন হয়, কেননা ওর অ্যাবজর্বেন্সটা কিন্তু কমে যায় ডিউ টু দিস হাই বিটিং। ওকে, so, can you give me an example where we use this grease-proof paper? This, I believe, all of you have seen. Grease-proof paper. Where have you seen this in packaging?
Sir,
Butter, yes, exactly. Anything butter, that is a grease-proof paper. Okay, এবং এই পেপারগুলো দেখবে খুব মানে সফট এবং খুব মানে মসৃণ হয়, দে আর ভেরি স্মুথ। এই যে ফাইব্রাস টাইপ অ্যাপিয়ারেন্সটা কিন্তু হয় না, তাই না? এই পেপারগুলো খুব স্মুথ হয় না।
yes, sir.
হ্যাঁ, আর কোনো এক্সাম্পল বাটার ছাড়া?
লজেন্সেও থাকে মাঝে মাঝে একটা সাদা মতো পেপার।
লজেন্সেনটা কিন্তু গ্রিস প্রুফ নয়, ওটা আমি আসছি, ওটা পারপাসটা অনেকটা এক, কিন্তু এক্স্যাক্টলি এক নয়, সেটা আমি আসছি। লজেন্স বা দেখবে সোপ পেপার একরকমের হয়, দেখবে সাবান কিনলে তার উপরে একটা কাগজের র্যাপ থাকে না ইন জেনারেল,
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
সেটা কিন্তু গ্রিস প্রুফ পেপার নয়, সেটা আমি আসছি এরপরে। গ্রিস প্রুফ পেপার জেনারেলি ফুডসে থাকে খুব, যেটা একটা বললো বাটার, বা তোমরা দেখবে এই যে তোমরা বার্গার বা হট ডগ এগুলো যখন কিনে খাও, এর ওপরে দেখবে একটা কাগজ থাকে, বা কেক যে থাকে, কেকেও কিন্তু ইউজ করা হয়, ঠিক আছে, কেকের চারপাশে যে র্যাপটা থাকে, বা তোমরা যারা বাপুজি কেক খেয়েছো কখনো, বা তাতে দেখবে যে পেপারটা থাকে, দ্যাট ইজ অ্যান এক্সাম্পল অফ গ্রিস প্রুফ পেপার, ঠিক আছে। The next paper that we will see, that is also having the same kind of purpose, but that is much strong, means that is having higher strength, and that is called glassine paper. That is called glassine paper. Glassine paper. The glassine paper is almost the same way, but it is having a super calendared nature. Okay, super calendared. Calendaring is a very important process in paper making that we'll know. For the time being, you just remember that glassine is a super calendared paper stock. Okay, and due to this super calendering, they are having very high gloss. এই পেপারগুলো দেখবে, যে পেপারগুলো লজেন্সের যে পেপারটা বা সাবানের বাইরে যে পেপারটা থাকে, দেখবে সেটা খুব চকচক করে আর কি, এটা গ্লাসের মতো, তাই তো? একটুখানি মোটা হয়, দেখবে অতটা পাতলা হয় না, ওই বাটারের পেপারটার মতো ওরকম পাতলা হয় না, একটু মোটা হয়, তাই না?
Yes,
হ্যাঁ
sir.
স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, সো দ্যাট ইজ হোয়াট ইজ কজড বাই দ্য থিং। এবং এখানে কি করা হয়, দিস পেপার ইজ সুপার ক্যালেন্ডার, অ্যান্ড উই অলসো ইউজ সিলিকন ইমপ্রেগনেশন। ইমপ্রেগনেশন মিন্স পাতি বাংলায় হলো যে এর মধ্যে সিলিকন পার্টিকেল ইনক্লুড করা থাকে। ওকে, সিলিকন ইজ বেসিক্যালি আ রাবার কাইন্ড অফ মেটেরিয়াল। So that is the example of glassine paper, where you will see mostly in the case of lozenges or soap. In those cases, you will see. In some cases, some jewelry packaging also use this, because this is a very smooth paper. So if you wrap the jewelry and all these things, it is not going to cause any kind of scratches or all. Okay. The next type of paper is called vegetable parchment. Vegetable parchment is again a very commonly used paper in case of many of the food products, and which is the it is basically a bleached chemical pulp. It is made from bleached chemical pulp, and it is passed through a sulfuric acid bath. I will give you a note on this, so don't need to means remember all this technical chemical stuff very rigorously now. I will give you a note on that. Just try to understand, and most importantly, try to understand the use, the application of these papers. Okay, vegetable parchment is majorly used for food products. Okay, দেখবে কাপকেক বা সে ফর এক্সাম্পল কিছু ওই মাফিনস বা এই টাইপের জিনিসে একটা ব্রাউন ব্রাউন টাইপের একটা paper coating থাকে. Okay, so that is a vegetable parchment which is used. Okay, and next is very commonly thing that is called tissue paper. টিস্যু পেপারের ইউজ তোমরা অনেক দেখেছো। It is majorly used for, as I already told, that those paper bags, say tea bags and all these things. In those cases, we use this tissue paper kind of thing. Okay, so we have some more actually that we will cover in the next day, because time is almost over. So I will just quickly write down the takeover of the day. If you have any doubts, you can ask me, and I will give you a short note on this. I will send in the group after next day's class, so that you will have the different packaging papers and their use and properties over there. Okay, so today our takeaways are: we have discussed the advantages and disadvantages of paper and paperboard. In packaging, and we also started discussing types of packaging papers. That's all for the day. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. No doubt since. Just one second, I'll just take the attendance and then you can make a move.